One thing that I have noticed over the years is that support for Israel is heavily declining. It is declining so much so that literally last year, somebody put an anti Semitic pamphlet right in front of my house. And it didn't just happen one time, it happened twice. And it was a pamphlet that said that Jews run all of the pornography industry, Jews are Satanists. And I'm thinking, I have never once in my life seen this sort of thing before because, in the years when I was going to junior high school, Americans tended to be very, very pro-Israel, very sympathetic to Israel, very much so unsympathetic to Hamas and the PLO. And now what we are seeing in the Western world is a reverse of this. We're seeing more and more people becoming pro-Hamas, pro-PLO, pro-Palestine, and anti-Israel. And you see people on Twitter, Western people. I'm not talking about Middle Eastern people. I'm not talking about African people. I'm talking about Western people, Anglo people, on Twitter expressing sympathy to Hamas, as if Hamas are just a bunch of wonderful freedom fighters fighting against, the evil despotism of the Zionist regime, the evil tyranny of Israel. It's like, Hamas is a bunch of terrorists. They just butchered hundreds of Israeli civilians in cold blood, and you have people online praising them. So what this eventually leads to is the phenomena of people becoming very angry at the idea of America helping Israel in any sort of way. And this goes along the rhetoric of, that's none of our business, who cares, that's their problem, that's that country's problem. We need to focus on helping Americans in the United States, not helping other people in other countries. And this phenomena is growing extremely strong in the United States. This was one of the reasons why, at least, Donald Trump won. And this sentiment has not gone away. It is still ever present, and it is growing stronger every year. So I think the result of this is going to be America becoming more and more indifferent towards Israel, less and less interested in helping Israel. And I think eventually what will happen is the United States is going to tell Israel, you guys do what you have to do to survive. And this is going to also going to occur in tandem with the United States telling countries like Turkey, like Germany, you guys do what you need to do. A country like Japan, your problems with North Korea, your problem with China, do what you have to do to survive. Do what you have to do against these enemy neighbors of yours. And so I think what will eventually happen is the United States is just going to cut off the leashes that have restrained these countries, and will just tell these countries, do what you have to do. We got a little taste of this with Donald Trump, when Donald Trump just said, let some other country deal with Syria, and he was actually referring to Turkey. He was essentially saying, let Turkey deal with Syria. And it was the Trump administration that supported Turkey's expansion into northern Syria. So we have already gotten a taste of this. When Donald Trump was running for the presidency, in his first run, I remember he said, if Japan wants to use nukes against North Korea, who cares? I'm not going to stop them. So that was an indication of this sort of phenomena. The United States has a legacy of isolationism, and I think that America is simply going to return to isolationism in some way. And this is happening in the aftermath of the Iraq War. The United States still has not psychologically recovered from the Iraq War. Americans don't want to get involved in interventionism. Most Americans hate the idea of interventionism, especially now when the world has been exhausted with all of the different conflicts that have been occurring. It's very scary, the times that we are living in. We're living in this time of capriciousness and instability, when we don't really know when we're going to be engulfed in something very vicious. We don't know when we are going to be pulled into some sort of meat grinder, some sort of human blender. The United States could end up in an internal conflict itself, and that's also a possibility, a very scary possibility. And we already see, these signs in the world of a global conflict. We see Armenia and Azerbaijan fighting. We see, obviously, Russia and Ukraine. We see this tension between Japan and China, Taiwan and China, Japan and North Korea. And we see the fighting between the Gazites and the Israelis. And so we're living in this time of conflict, and it's only going to get worse. I really hate to sound like some doom and gloom guy, but it's only going to get worse. So Americans see all this stuff happening. They see this storm just getting more and more horrendous, and Americans don't want any part of it, and I can't blame them. So the sentiment is, that's none of our business. And when politicians start talking about supporting Israel, a lot of people get angry at this idea. And as anti-Jewish sentiment grows, this sort of vicious anger at the idea of helping Israel is only going to grow. And so Israel is going to become more and more isolated. And so it's a very scary time for the Israelis, given the fact that they were being exterminated by the Germans just less than a century ago. That a Holocaust could happen again, and I believe that it will happen again. And it's a very, very dreadful thought, to say the least. Anyway, you guys just heard some theology. God bless.